But I do think his fundamental appeal to lots and lots of people who are not MAGA base Republicans is he offers simple sounding solutions to extremely complex problems, right? He's going to solve the Middle East. He's going to end the war in Ukraine and Russia. He's going to lower rapidly, he said, rapidly lower prices for everyday items. He's going to solve the problem of immigration. It's like, I get the appeal of simple sounding solutions, right? Because it's like life is complicated. You know what? That's a pain in the ass. It would be better if we could just if it was like, this is the right thing to do. This is the wrong thing to do. Let's just do the right thing over and over again. But that's not how a lot of these issues work.
This is the Ground Game Podcast, where we cover politics from the ground up. Here are your hosts, Tom LoBianco and Patrick Pfingsten.
From sea to shining sea, above the fruited plain, our democracy is going to hell in a hula hoop. Day after day. It's the day after the inauguration. Welcome to the Ground Game Podcast. I'm Patrick Pfingsten. He's Tom LoBianco. He writes the great website 24site.news and newsletter there. We are recording this Tuesday, January 21st, the morning after Donald Trump became the once and former president and president again.
Yeah.
I've had my grumpy pants on for a few days. I really have them on now.
I'm with you.
After watching the shit show yesterday in Washington, Tom, that this is as bad as we could have imagined.
He acted like the attempted coup, or he's trying to erase the attempted coup, which, by the way, that's what happens in China. In China, you're not allowed to learn about Tiananmen Square. How about that? He's trying. Now, there's still a free press. All right. So
at least for now, there's a free press.
Oh, there always will be. If Brad Parscale proved anything, it's that you can do your job from poolside anywhere in the world. Okay.
Well, it's 6 below zero in Chicago right now. I'd like to be working poolside at the moment, but a lot coming up on the show. We're gonna go through the inauguration, the speech, the pardons, the executive orders, and try and find a bright spot in what's coming our way. I have a hard time finding that. We're also going to talk to Chris Cillizza, awesome journalist who, longtime guy for the Washington Post, CNN, now out on his own, writes a Substack at chriscillizza.substack.com. Also hosts a very busy, very interesting YouTube page. So go check his stuff out. We'll talk to him coming up. Tom, without waste, let's get to it.
First down.
All right, Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States.
Yep.
God help our souls. Let's start with the inauguration and the speech.
Mm-hmm.
I literally almost fell asleep. It was just the same rambling, low energy list of grievances that you could have imagined from any Trump speech in the last 8 years. I sat there and I watched it and I thought, God, this shit again.
It would have been better if Howard Dean had done it. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to Panama. We're going to Greenland. We're going to Mars. Yeah. But instead it's like, we're going to plant a flag on Mars. Elon Musk is like, Mars.
Don't mimic Nazi. Don't mimic the Elon Nazi salute. Okay. That's
okay.
I can clip that.
By the way, clearly this is parody, and that is when you put your hand over your heart and like shoot it out like that, that's a Nazi salute. And if the richest man on the planet who has West Wing access and is a top White House advisor doesn't know that, well, that's insane.
I couldn't quite figure out where they were going with this. It was so meandering. You had almost the American Carnage versions in parts of the speech. You had the long list of here's what I'm mad about as I take office. And then you had the couple of aspirational lines. There's nothing we can't do if we do it together, which is like maybe Susie Wild stuck that in somewhere because she's trying to sound nice, but it was a real mess.
Yeah, it was a clip job of an inaugural speech. I mean, it looked backwards to attack alleged deep state and, alleged deep shadowy forces that almost killed him in Butler, Pennsylvania, when we know that shadowy force, it was a 20-year-old kid and an overworked Secret Service. All right. With, equally young advanced person. I think it was like 24 years old, like had 2 years of experience putting it together. So like, yeah, he is who he is. He is who he campaigned as. And yesterday he proved that's exactly what he's going to try to do.
They are who we thought they were.
Yep.
Rest in peace, Denny Green.
It's second down.
All right, so let's get into some of the things that he actually did on Monday. More than just a speech, more than just weird dancing. I was thankfully watching the college football playoff and not his impromptu press conference in the Oval last night. Let's start with the pardons. 1,500 pardons or commutations of literal criminals in the January 6th, 2021 attack on the Capitol.
Yep.
I am so angry about this. I'm so angry that what was my party has allowed the narrative to change on January 6th so dramatically from this was an attack on our democracy, which everyone said on January 6th and January 7th from Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy.
I'm gonna cut you off, man. Hold on a second. They haven't allowed any narrative to change.
They changed it. They changed the narrative itself.
For this many people. I mean, like for normal human beings and the vast majority of Americans, they all know what happened on January 6th. So in their bubble, all right, they have changed it, but not for everyone else. So I think we need to be clear about that.
Do you think the general public believes January 6th was a violent attack on the Capitol, or do you believe that they think it was?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what the public thinks anymore, just because the right has flooded the zone with Steve Bannon shit for 4 years now.
For the hard right. That does not permeate. It's, why did people vote for Trump? They didn't vote for Trump based on January 6th. They vote, to the extent we believe the post-election analyses, all right, it was as much voting against Biden and not for Kamala Harris and staying home as it was for the price of eggs, all right, and for DEI and transgender issues.
But we have to admit, that this is an absolute injustice.
Yes.
To the family of Brian Sicknick, to the families of the police officers who were injured and beaten within an inch of their life that day.
Yep.
To the Pences.
Yep.
You don't think that crowd would have gotten their hands on Mike Pence? They wouldn't have hurt him or killed him?
Absolutely. Look, there's a reason the parents of Brian Sicknick refused to shake the hands of Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell. And they were right. And Karen Pence, who refused to acknowledge the presence of Trump or Melania Trump at the Carter funeral.
Best Karen move ever.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know what? Sometimes it takes some of that Midwest passive aggressive and a passive aggressiveness. All right. Like that's literally how you have to handle it sometimes. So, look, we'll find out how this plays, but who cares how it plays? Like it's reality. And that's how I look at it as a journalist. And he just said that he just opened his second term by making it about January 6th. He didn't have to do that. He could have waited a week. He could have done a case-by-case review. He could have said, all right, well, this person is a praying grandma. She's off the hook. But this person smashed cop's head into the steps, spraying blood all over the place. He's staying in jail. Could have done that, but he didn't. So he made it about January 6th. People are smart. You're never going to have everybody. on this. Okay, that's just unrealistic. But he chose to make the opening of his second term about January 6th.
And how dumb does JD Vance look when he literally came out and said, no, the violent offenders aren't going to get pardons. He immediately got attacked by his own MAGA wing.
Yep.
Somebody in Trump world certainly flagged it. And then JD Vance looks feckless before he's even vice president.
That's why they brought Musk on stage instead of him.
Before or after the Nazi salute?
How many? Jesus, I know.
All right. The issue that may be even worse is how Donald Trump thinks he can circumvent the actual Constitution.
Okay.
He has pardon powers. He literally has the power and the authority to pardon the January 6th people. So he's not doing anything out of his power.
Right.
But he signed an executive order yesterday to end birthright citizenship, which is literally outlined and granted inside the U.S. Constitution. Mm-hmm. And remember, Republicans, my old team, the ones that carry the little pocket constitutions around, we're not standing up for the Constitution anymore. I mean, this is, and I've talked to some Republicans about it, and they know it's illegal. They know it's going to get overturned in court. But who's speaking up about it? It's unimaginable that this would be okay for the Constitution loving right.
It's this is what I mean when I say try. All right, like we're going to find out. All right, and I've heard some people be like, "Oh, it's like recommended in the 14th Amendment." I'm like, "No, it's not recommended. It's written in there." Like, and the whole reason it's there was because of all these states that didn't want to recognize the Emancipation Proclamation. Okay.
The Second Amendment, by the way, is a hell of a lot less clear than the 14th Amendment.
Right. So, I mean, this is what I mean when, and look, I go back to, we had that great interview with Dick Toffel, former president of ProPublica, Wall Street Journal, a long time. And he made that great, he said, write about what's real, write about what we can show. And that's what we're doing. All right. Like, Trump can say that he's sending JD Vance to Mars instead of Elon Musk because the rockets explode too often and he's too worried about his cash flow. All right. Okay. I'll write about that when it happens. All right. Marjorie Taylor Greene said she's going skeet shooting with some drones up in New Jersey. I will write about that when it happens. All right. Until then, these are all just words. Just words.
Was Usha Vance born in the United States?
I don't know. I don't know. I will Google that.
Born in San Diego, California. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So so it doesn't impact, but certainly of the same vein. So, just completely disastrous. All right, one more. All right, anybody who's been watching this podcast, listening to this podcast for our first 17 episods, know that you're the ray of optimistic sunshine, and I am the down in the. I'm Patrick the Grouch. Right?
Yes.
Call me Oscar if you want. I want you to try and find me a piece of optimism coming out of yesterday.
Elections. Okay, so remember, talk about reality. What did Trump do in 2022? He tried to destroy Brian Kemp in Georgia, one of the normal Republicans who accurately told him, no, sir, you did not win. And no, sir, we're not going to arbitrarily change election results because that would be fraud. Trump ran unsuccessfully a primary opponent against him that got lost. All right. 2026, Brian Kemp is leading, some of the early polling I've seen, is leading to potentially join the Senate. All right. So
Is he
All
term
thi-
limited? He's got to be term limited, right?
He
Is that
is.
what-
Yeah,
is
he's
that-
absolutely term limited as
So
governor.
he's going to take on Ossoff in 2 years?
Looks like it. I
Okay.
haven't seen anything official yet, but I mean,
I heard he was polling.
yeah, he's doing really good, and that goes to show that like reality matters. This is not absolutism, and beware any politician that tells you, "Oh, I totally control everything." Okay, clearly that's not true.
The counterpoint to that, though, is for every Brian Kemp you elect, who still endorsed Trump last year anyway, you've got a Jim Banks and a Tom Cotton and,
You're always gonna have that.
Kevin Kramer and all of these guys, Josh Hawley, who are completely in line with the crazy.
To an extent, what's funny about that
Bernie
is
Moreno.
to an extent, all that really shows is as long as you kiss his ass in public, then you get to go do whatever you want, which is not a sign of real control. So again, I come back to the reality of this. Let's divorce ourselves from the words, from the the hyperbolic rhetoric. It's that's all it is. All right. And that's why he does that, because he doesn't have the other things.
But at some point, don't you have to take the word seriously? I mean, he said 4 months that he was going to pardon the January 6th hostages. And what does he do on day one? He pardons every single January 6th convict.
Yep.
What does he do on day one? He's still talking about Greenland and Panama, and directs his administration to rename the Gulf of Mexico. He's doing everything he said he would at this point. And there's already talk of mass deportations beginning in Chicago this week.
Yeah, those are anything that is within the purview of the executive will be done. Absolutely. But things that require, I don't know, amending the Constitution, like, trying to, like, if he wants to repeal or alter the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, that requires a lot more and cannot be done with an executive order. That's reality. I got my right hand.
The court has to throw it out first, right? I mean, and we'll see if the guardrails hold with the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't promise the Supreme Court's going to hold anymore.
Don't know. I mean, look, you can't promise anything at this point, but reality is reality. Okay, that could change.
You make me feel so much better. All right, that's it for your optimistic portion of the program. Let's get to our friend Cillizza.
It's time to go in the huddle.
You know this guy on the bottom of the screen. His name is Cillizza, longtime Washington Post guy, longtime CNN guy, now writes a Substack and hosts a very successful YouTube page. We'll give you time to plug all that stuff.
Okay.
Mr. Cillizza, shout out to the
Hello.
Littles.
Hi, everyone.
Cillizza, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to my office.
All right, we are the morning after the inauguration that we record this, Chris. I think the world is going to hell in a handbasket right in front of our eyes. I'll start here. Is there any optimism? Any optimism at all?
So, I guess a couple things. One, I think that I do think it is at least worth noting, like amid all this, that Donald Trump is not going to get, we already know Donald Trump's not going to get everything he wants, right? He wanted Matt Gaetz to be the attorney general. Now, why? I don't totally know, but he wanted Matt Gaetz to be the attorney general. Matt Gaetz is not going to be the attorney general, right? And why is that? Because enough Republican senators went to Trump and said, this isn't going to fly. Now, we can debate about whether Pete Hegseth should be the defense secretary, as I think he's going to be. We'll see about Tulsi Gabbard. But I will note that one thing, that there is at least some evidence that there is a bridge too far for some Senate Republicans when it comes to Trump. The other thing I will say is, the Supreme Court, which everyone says is in hoc to Donald Trump, and he obviously did appoint 3 conservative Supreme Court justices, they could have thrown out the sentencing in that New York hush money trial. Now, the sentencing was obviously nothing because the judge essentially said, like, there's no fine and there's no jail time and this doesn't exist anymore. But they could have said, you know what, Trump is the president or about to be. He doesn't need to appear via Zoom. He doesn't need to do that. They didn't by a 5-4 decision. So if you are looking for green shoots of optimism that the system will hold against what I acknowledge is a significant challenge in the form of Donald Trump, I think there's some there. Now, that's all obviously happened pre him being president, right? We are not even at this point when we're taping, we're not even 24 hours into him being president. And, he's already done things that I think are quite dangerous, including pardoning all or commuting the sentences of all the January 6th people who are arrested, including 600 people who were charged with violent crimes, including assaulting police officers. If he had said, you know what, there were 1,000 people who were there, they were charged. I think this is an overreach. They trespassed, yes, but we can pardon them. I would have actually been okay with that. But to say people who jabbed police officers with flagpoles, beat police officers, sprayed police officers with
bear spray, bear spray,
right? And the thing about all of it too is there's video and photographic evidence of all this, loads of it. You want to dismiss me or any of us as members of the fake news media. It's fine. But there's video evidence of these things happening. So unless you think all of that was staged, which would be pretty friggin' elaborate, to me, it's Donald Trump stands up and says, I believe in the rule of law. Nobody loves the police more than me. And it's 140 police officers were assaulted that day. And you just pardoned or commuted the sentence of every single person involved in that. That's dangerous. I mean, I'd say Republican, yes. Democrat, that's dangerous.
Yes. It was an attempt to overthrow the election, the election results. And for every one of his staff, every professional Republican operative who said, well, America's not talking about this. Oh, America does not care about January 6th. Nobody is talking about this. Well, it's not nobody not talking about it. It's Trump, the president, talking about it. And he acted on it. So for everybody's oh, you guys just when he says that stuff on stage, whether you take him seriously or literally, the JD Vance explanation of things, it's oh, come on. He's definitely will review, we'll take time and review this. And it's no,
nope.
It's this is exactly who he said he was going to be.
Yeah. And Tom, that's the other thing. The pushback that I hear is and I don't totally disagree with this is, well, this is what he said he was going to do. That's not wrong, right? I always remind people in 2016, I could understand. I now belatedly understand. We had gone Bush, Clinton, Bush, and we were about to go to Clinton again. Right. Hated the political establishment. Trump, they didn't know all that much about him politically speaking, but he was clearly an outsider. Okay, fine, they voted for him. But in 2024, there's zero voters who could be not really sure what Donald Trump stands for or would do, because he doesn't hide the ball. You can blame him for many things, but he's not deceptive. He tells you what he will do. And so people say 77 million people voted for this. To me, I think both of those things can coexist. Yes, people voted for this. And yes, it is wrong to pardon people who can I swear?
Yes, absolutely.
Who beat the shit out of cops. I just don't understand how those two things can go together.
Yes.
The revisionist history from what used to be my party is remarkable here. I keep calling out Patrick Ruffini because he's one of the most egregious at this. There was a tweet on January 6th of prosecute him, impeach him, never let him hold office again. And then over the weekend, it was a 27 hours until we're back to sanity. It's that grift. It's that bullshit that makes me so angry that there are legitimate members of Congress who were cowering for their lives that day who talk about, oh, it was fun and festive, and people were just taking tours.
Yep.
There was shit on the walls.
Yep.
Yeah.
They wanted to hang Mike Pence.
The
I mean,
recasting.
how is it accepted by an entire political party at this point that reality never happened? That's one of the things that completely blows me away about our politics today.
And Patrick, that's what I keep coming back to. It's like, dude, this isn't me saying it. Like, it's one of the most documented events in modern American history because everyone who was there had their camera on, and they were carrying something, they had it on their head, whatever. There's tons and tons of video of this. And it is of a piece. If you watch Donald Trump's campaign speeches over between about 2022 and early 2024, it started to be the January 6th hostages. It started to be, these are political prisoners, right? And why? Does Donald Trump really believe that? I mean, almost certainly not. I mean, I'm not sure what he deep down believes, but almost certainly not. I think the best way to think of what he says a lot in his campaign speeches is like a comedian. He tests out lines, and the ones that get good response from the crowd, he keeps. So it's basically, when you go to a Donald Trump rally towards the end of a campaign, you're just seeing it's like going to see the Eagles and they play Hotel California. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to see the greatest hits. And so it's like, yeah, people cheer for it. And so he says it. But again, there's just very little evidence that this was a false flag operation, that these people weren't. I mean, people are dead, right? I mean, like, there's that people are injured. People, like, we saw them bleeding. We saw people jabbing flagpoles into cops. Like, unless you believe those are actors on a stage, like the moon landing, wink, wink. Like, I don't know how to your point, how do you say, like, it was all fine? I saw bullshit by the media. It's like, but the media is not filming these videos. The people who are there are filming the videos.
They put GoPros on while they beat the shit out of the cops. Right. I mean, that's what fucking happened. Like, I was up in, I have a high tolerance, and Patrick will attest to this. I have a high tolerance for a lot of political BS. I'm able to laugh at a lot of things since this is our industry right now. But I have zero tolerance for people that just make shit up about the insurrection. I was up in New Hampshire at the beginning of last year during the primary. And was talking with voters, it's back when Nikki Haley was kind of sort of a thing. She was a legit challenge back then. And, this one guy comes out and he's coming out of the polling booth. I'm over there at, I think it's Manchester South High School. And, real interesting, tells me he's a retired electrician. He's talking about a lot of stuff. And he's like, I don't know if I should say this, but, I voted for him. I'm like, well, okay, man, like, what's wrong with that? Like, it's perfectly fine to say that you voted for Donald Trump. Like, is that, okay. And we're talking, and he's like, yeah, just the way that, like, the FBI put on the entire thing. Yep. And, like, the way that, like, they inserted, like they staged the breaking of the glass. And I was like, you know what, man? Like, I don't usually do this with voters. I pulled out my Hill Pass, my press badge from Congress. And I was like, you're wrong. You're wrong. You just don't know. Like, I don't know how to wire a house, and you have no idea what you're talking about. So let's move on to something else. Like,
it's just, and by the way, like, for as much as the left condemns all this stuff, and I would say rightly so, because, like, rewriting history is a dangerous thing. I like the people, and I still get this sometimes. Trump talked about the assassination briefly yesterday in his inaugural speech, and there are people who are like, he wasn't really a shot. He wasn't really shot at. It was a piece of glass. I'm like, okay, well, a bullet, even if you believe that the bullet hit the teleprompter that then went into his ear, which I don't think there's any proof of, but let's just say that happened. Someone was still shooting at him. Like, yeah. I don't understand. It's like, why can't we just say, like, okay, yes, sometimes facts are inconvenient to our deeply held beliefs. It doesn't change the fact that they're facts. And unfortunately, like, Jeff Zucker way back in the day at CNN told me, I always think of this. He said, facts aren't a partisan position. And he's right. but I'm not sure that most people would agree with
That's right.
and that worries me.
Yeah, don't with your alternative facts there, Chris. To quote a former Trumper.
Yep.
Another issue that made itself known last night, as we record this Tuesday morning, was an executive order that essentially aims to end birthright citizenship, which is literally in the Constitution. I had a Republican member of Congress tell me this morning that, yeah, it's probably illegal. No shit. But they admit that it's for messaging purposes, because they want to continue to demean people who aren't from here. It's just it's just bad public policy to try and implement something is illegal. But two, it's damning that this is how they feel like they have to accomplish the means to an end, by continuing to try to delegitimize and make less than people who are Americans just like us. It really bothers me.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's so hard in our politics is incentivized all screwed up in this way. It's like Trump's great appeal, I think, I know some people like his only appeal is that he's a racist and a misogynist. I don't buy that, but I do think his fundamental appeal to lots and lots of people who are not MAGA base Republicans is he offers simple sounding solutions to extremely complex problems, right? He's going to solve the Middle East. He's going to end the war in Ukraine and Russia. He's going to lower rapidly lower prices for everyday items. He's going to solve the problem of immigration. It's like, I get the appeal of simple sounding solutions, right? Because it's like life is complicated. And you know what? That's a pain in the ass. It would be better if we could just if it was like, this is the right thing to do. This is the wrong thing to do. Let's just do the right thing over and over again. But that's not how a lot of these issues work. Particularly immigration, it's complicated. I mean, look, you see how complicated it is in the divide between, I don't even know what to call it, the Elon Musk wing of the party and the Vivek Ramaswamy wing of the party. Like, I mean, the whole visa,
the tech bros and the original MAGAs.
Right. And so it's like, it's not simple, but people are drawn to simple solutions. And I think Democrats often lose elections this way, like doing oh, well, it's really complicated and there's no easy solution. And I think people at some level know that. But again, in the kind of reptilian part of our brain that's been around since time immemorial, you're like, wait, but that sounds good. It would be good to fix this problem right away. I think we all kind of want that. And he plays to that. And immigration, I think, is example number one of that. It is not as simple as just saying you got to come back. The other one, Patrick, that I always think is ridiculous just from a logistical standpoint, whatever you think of it as policy. We're just going to round up the 11 million people who are here illegally. Okay, how? So Trump's answer is the local police know all these people. They do. They know all 11 million people. And those people how are we going to deploy local law enforcement resources to round them up? How would it work even if you could make it work? It's just not that simple. I mean, I think he probably winds up deporting 1 million people at some point. You know what I mean? I think there'll be something, but it's the allure of easy solutions, while I understand it, is an allure. It is not a reality.
Well, I think we're also starting to see the reality of disappointment too, if you're a Trump supporter, because this is exactly what happened during the first administration. The blitzkrieg of deportations that was promised is not happening today. And why is it not happening? Because somebody leaked a story to the Journal, NBC, that these raids were happening. And now Tom Homan is like, oh, well, element of surprise is gone. We can't do it. But Tom Homan has also said, we also don't have the money for this. So I mean, we're already starting to see the wall 2.0, with the rusted rafters, sitting at the border, which, Asa Hutchinson used to talk about that on the campaign trail. So I mean, there is reality setting in.
And I mean, again, like I went through his inaugural speech. I did it this morning, and he does say in there, I will marshal my cabinet to rapidly reduce prices. And it's like, I don't know if it's the whole literally versus figuratively thing again, but it's like, I don't know that it's that easy. Like, if it was that easy, wouldn't have Joe Biden have marshaled the resources of his cabinet? Like, it just, again, it's these things that sound pretty good. Like, yeah, we should lower prices.
But you know what he's calling
America
for there?
great again.
Calling for deflation.
Right.
He's literally calling for deflation, which is a bigger economic problem in the scheme of things than just lowering the price of eggs.
And this is my point. It's like,
I don't know who wrote that because it's so boneheaded.
They all have downstream impacts, right?
Yeah.
It's like when people say, like, why doesn't the media just do their job and then you'll make money? It's like, well, like, if it was that easy to like figure out how to make journalism work, there's been a lot of smart people thinking about it for a really long time. You know what I mean? It's not for lack of thinking that we don't have a good idea. It's just a really gnarly problem without any good solutions. And I think that's true with a lot of challenges the country faces. People don't want to hear that. I get it.
I am optimistic on reality setting in. So, for everybody who said Joe Biden absolutely is a dictator. Okay, if he's a dictator, why is he not there right now?
Yep.
I don't know. Like, right? Like, I mean,
sure.
right? Like,
I mean, I agree. I'm just not sure. That famous quote that was allegedly written on a blackboard in the Bush White House about the reality-based community. The only reason I know about it is because it's in a national song about they like read it. It's like we're living in a post-reality world or something, and liberals seized on it as like George Bush is trying to make his own reality. Remember when George Bush was the bad guy Republican president?
Jesus.
Anyway, I wonder about that because I wrote about January 6th, or I talked about January 6th this morning on my Substack, and like a lot of the pushback is like, well, you got all the facts wrong. I'm like, but what facts are wrong? What, like, that's the issue. It's like, it seems to me obvious that cops were beaten down. Now, because I saw footage of cops being beaten down. And even that, like something you can see with your eyes and hear with your ears, is like, well, not really. You don't have to, you're blind to the real stories. That's what I worry about when we talk about reality. It seems like an easy concept that we could all agree on. And yet here we are. Like,
this is okay. Everything comes back to a Chappelle show sketch. All right. And this is like, because remember, like, Chappelle had everybody nailed. I mean, making fun of Puff Daddy back in the day.
Yep.
All right. R. Kelly, especially. R. Kelly, like, he makes like the whole music video about like, I want to pee on you, etc. And like R. Kelly comes up to him at the airport and it's like, yo, man, it's really messed up. You made that video. And Chappelle's like, it's really messed up. You're doing this.
Yep.
And there's this one sketch where it's like, well, what will it take for people to believe that like R. Kelly is actually doing this? Because we all know it's true. And it's like, well, all right, his mom's going to have to be there witnessing it. We're going to have to witness his mom being there.
Yep.
His grandma's going to have to be there too. His 3 cousins over here, these guys are every one of them has to be there too. And we're going to need like at least 5 other people who all saw it happen in real time. That's what it's going to take.
I remember before the election, I would do these like paid speeches, and these groups would be like, this is like a month before the election. Someone would inevitably say like, what could happen between now and November 5th that would like change the trajectory of the race vis-a-vis Donald Trump? And I would be like, so I'm going to throw out a scenario. Donald Trump is driving. First of all, this is unrealistic because Donald Trump probably hasn't driven a car in 25 years. But let's just say Donald Trump is driving a car. He runs someone over in a crosswalk. Okay. That would seem bad. But I guarantee you, and this is not an exaggeration, I always tell people this is not an exaggeration. There would be plenty of people who would say, false flag operation. It's a Democratic operative. That guy is totally fine. He didn't even really get hit. There would be some people who would say, Well, he deserved it. He wasn't walking when it said to walk. And there would be some people who say, like, I don't give a shit if he hit someone.
Yeah.
And so it's like, even like that extreme example, it's like, I'm not sure that slows him, because one of the truest things he ever said, and I remember scoffing at it at the time, was I could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose any support. And God damn it, he knows his supporters. He's not wrong, because they're not living in the same reality that we are. Everything's a conspiracy. Everything's the media and the elites trying to spoon feed you their narrative. I just don't know what you do about it. I mean, my thing is like, I want more people who think that way to read what I write and watch what I say, because I try to say, like, here are the facts. Here is a link to this thing. Here is a video of this thing. It's not just me being like, you know what? I have some thoughts. The problem is those people are not interested in reading someone. I gave a speech to a group last week. They were like, it was a very conservative group. And they were like, Chris Cillizza, our speaker, he's a former CNN. And I walked up on stage and it was literally like, there was like 600 people. It was like, it was so brutal. So it's like, there's just such a built-in distrust.
At least it wasn't booze. I mean, or did
no,
those
I
come
think
after?
they would have booed, but I think it was early in the morning and they weren't polite. I tried to win them over, but man, I hadn't even said anything. You know what I mean? It's not like I had said something that pissed them all off. It was just,
one time worked at the Clinton News Network. Please welcome Chris Cillizza.
and people would come up to me all the time and be like, yeah, so CNN, Donna Brazil leaked those talking points to Hillary Clinton in the 2016 debate. I'm like, number one, I didn't work there at the time. Number two, I probably talked to Donna Brazil once in my entire life. Number three, CNN's a giant organization. The guy would get responsible for every single thing that anyone has ever done there in history.
Well, also too, this election, Fox gave it to Trump's campaign.
I saw that.
Okay, so where are they worked up about that? No, because it's total tribalism. You know, like
it is.
It's I was like, with this talk of a mandate, right? You know, quote unquote mandate, and I'm like, all right, if it's a mandate, like, and there's such a blowout, why didn't he hit Reagan numbers?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the idea that it's a landslide. I mean, he won the popular vote by about 1.8 million, which, you know, is pretty remarkable. His first person to win the popular vote as a Republican since George W. Bush in 2020, in 2004. He swept the 7 swing states. He kept saying yesterday in all his speeches, like, I won massive margins as swing states. He didn't, but he won them. Mm-hmm. You know, it's what I always think with Trump. It's like, good can't be good enough. It has to be best. Right. Mm-hmm. Like when I wrote my book about politics and politicians and the sports they played, you know, I was doing research into Trump as a baseball player. And he's actually a pretty serviceable high school baseball player.
Oh, really?
It's like so on the nose. His teammates said he only cared about hitting home runs. He didn't care about fielding, didn't care about it. It's like so perfect. But anyway, he was good, but he wasn't, you know, like elite. You know, and but he can't just say like, I hit some home runs, you know, in high school. He has to say, I was, as he says many times, I was the best high school baseball player in New York State, which is like demonstrably false. I mean, that's good can never be good enough. I just don't
get it.
And
he does it with golf, even at 78 years old. You know, he's got
club champion Donald Trump, you mean?
He's good for his age.
Absolutely.
He's got a pretty nice swing for being an old fat guy, but as a rapidly aging fat guy, I can say that.
Totally. We speak from positions of authority on that.
Exactly. I'm a position on being old and fat. So he still does that in every sense. But that leads me to this, Chris, is that somebody's got to be able to continue to be the arbiter of the truth. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the media knows how to do it, especially this time around.
No.
In the campaign was treated like the horse race. The first Trump White House was distracted by the shiny object. The media was distracted by the shiny object of the day. We've already seen that with the Greenland and Canada and Gulf of Trump and all of that
Canal.
Stuff. Yep. And I just certainly you're not going to get people to turn on cable news by eating their vegetables, right? You've got to somehow keep them entertained, but you've also got to be the arbiter of the truth. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know how they do that.
I don't either. I mean, I think the age of mainstream media is coming to an end. I don't think it's over. I don't think you're going to go to
Said by
CNN.com.
three Substackers.
Yeah, true. I mean, right. I'm self-interested in that, but I don't think you're going to CNN.com or WashingtonPost.com and getting a dead link anytime soon. But I just think their capacity, you look at the trust numbers and they're so low, right? It's like 32% of people. I think I can get people to trust me. I can say, look, this is me. This is my background. This is who pays me. It's not that many people, and this is what I do. Right. And you can like it or not, but that's what I do. And you can trust me and you can look at the back catalog of everything I've written. And that's how I can do it. The problem is if you're a big ass company with a variety of different functions and facets and ownership groups, I just don't think you can do it. And I think if people don't trust you natively, there's no way to be that arbiter, right? The most important thing is in a baseball game, you can like it or not like the ump's calls, but the ump has been deputized to be the person calling balls and strikes. Everyone on the field recognizes it. Again, not everybody loves it, but everybody recognizes it. That's the ump's job. We don't have an ump who is recognized as that's his job anymore in political coverage. And well, maybe broadly, but political coverage is what I know about. And that's a big problem, particularly as it relates to Donald Trump, because this is someone who said 30,000+ misleading or false things while he was in the White House. Right. I mean, and I don't think he's going to suddenly stop doing that.
Yeah, he just makes stuff up whole cloth. It's why I don't quote him directly anymore on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like I think about but here's a counterpoint to that, because I think we're in an interregnum on this. If you look at Trump's actions, all right, so the legacy media clearly still counts for a lot, because if that were not the case, the president of the United States would not be suing or threatening to sue CBS News over a perfectly normal 60 Minutes interview, would not have sued ABC News and really Disney. All right, he's succeeded where Ron DeSantis failed in bringing down the mouse. All right, would not be suing the Des Moines Register and Ann Selzer. All right, if they did not matter, would not be putting the screws on us in the press corps, specifically members of the White House press corps. There's a very good report from our friend Jake LaHutte in the Columbia Journalism Review, all about how basically I look at, this is what I talk with my friends when they ask questions about what's going on. I say he is browbeating to try to force a change in coverage. And in many ways, it's working. Look at the change in tone of Politico Playbook under Jack Blanchard the last 2 days. Very obsequious. I mean, to almost Mike Pence pre-January 6th levels, like almost like Trump cabinet level in terms of the tone. So clearly the legacy media matters so much that he feels like he needs to attack. All right. But clearly also not as strong as we used to be. And that's just the truth of it. It's this valley. I don't know where we are exactly, but it's not. It's a time of chaos right now. I think, and look, I mean, we have to push back on this because January 6th was an insurrection. Okay, people got hurt really badly. Insurrectionists brought guns, knives. They weaponized things. That was real. It's a mark in American history. And it's our job to bear witness to this, which we are. It's a dark moment.
It's just remarkable to me. It's controversial. Do you know what I mean? Like it just seems odd. Like, okay, like what happened there was people who were misled that the election had been stolen, stormed the U.S. Capitol to try to stop the constitutionally required counting of the Electoral College votes. Many people, including some of them, were injured, some of them really badly. Like, why is that something that like we have to stand up and say this happened? Like, I know we do. And I know it doesn't decide votes for lots of people. I get that. My point is not like whether you should vote on it or not. It's just like, let's acknowledge that this is a thing that happened. And it impacted lots and lots of people's lives. We can move on, but why are we debating it? Like, I don't know. I mean, again, it's like Patrick and I were talking to this before you got on, Tom. It's like, we're not debating whether it's cold in Chicago or Washington, D.C. right now, because you can go outside and it's cold. It feels to me like that obvious. And yet here we are.
You think it's cold in Washington? Try the Midwest, man.
Exactly.
All right, we're gonna get you out of here on this, Chris. It's you and I having beef.
I love it.
You went on a Twitter tirade the other day.
I often
basically saying the West Wing sucks.
I did. Well, I didn't basically say it. I literally
you did
just
say
said,
the
there
West
it
Wing
is.
Sucks. There
it's
it is.
Right
Video
there.
evidence for those on YouTube.
Yep.
Here's my counterpoint. Essentially, your argument was that it's not realistic. Sure, right? It is.
Yeah.
My point is, in rebuttal to that, is it's damn good writing, it's damn good acting, it's inspirational, it's good, it's aspirational for a lot of politics, even as a conservative. The realism argument that doesn't work for me, CSI ain't real, cop shows ain't real, lawyer shows ain't real.
I'm not a cop or a lawyer, and I don't know about those things. But yes, no, I agree with you. The other point I will say, other than the realistic argument, which I do get and I think is fair, is I find it on rewatch to be like a liberal fever dream. And it kind of makes me insane. Because I think liberals are like, see, if the media only covered it the way that, what's his name? Tim Buzzy or whatever the hell that guy from 30 something who played the reporter.
Oh, Tim Busfield. Yeah.
Yes. If they only, God, I'm so old, 30 something reference. We're trending very old. Matlock is on. No, but if only reporters were like that, it's like, give me a break, man. Like, it's not nearly as bad as House of Cards, which I found to be like legitimately repugnant. But it's the veneration. You know what? I like the Grateful Dead. I sometimes listen to their music. But what I don't want is the people pushing like Monterey 7874 mixtapes on me. It's more the fans of the West Wing I don't like than actually the West Wing. That's
oh my God, you're calling them deplorables. This is why you're not allowed to talk about the West Wing. This is a basket of deplorables. I have a binder full of these things. It's
if you think the West Wing is a fever dream, try the Newsroom.
That's 1,000 times worse. And I mentioned that in the piece. I mean, the Jeff
as great as Jeff Daniels was, it was very
maddening. Maddening as a reporter. I always say the Aaron Sorkin, the Jeff Daniels character, like just monologuing and lecturing journalism on how it should be. I don't know, man. It's like my experience in journalism, there's the vast majority of people I worked with worked really hard, were pretty smart, and tried to get it right. They didn't have like some secret agenda. I'm sure there are people like that. It's a big ass industry, but we're such an easy scapegoat because we just take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for so long, it was like, don't push back. I mean, I remember when I was at CNN and people would be like, Chris Cillizza, go fuck yourself. And I'd be like, I'm going to say something. And our PR people would be like, don't do it.
You're not allowed.
And it's like, why?
Have a great day.
Why is that acceptable behavior?
I push, you know what? One of the things I love about living in the wild with all the wildlings here. All right. And we will grow in masses certainly in the coming weeks, guaranteed, is, I go down in the comments. I feed the trolls. I do it all the time, and not just because
I'll do it sometimes too. I can't help it.
and see, my reaction to those trolls is fuck off. So see, that's probably why I shouldn't go down into that.
You should live there, baby.
Do you guys get? I have one question, and then I promise I'll go. Do you guys get this? So I wrote about Biden's pardons yesterday, and I said like this is like terrible. Like it's your preemptive pardons are a bad idea because it makes you look guilty. Pardoning your family, you're setting dangerous precedent. All these things, right? I probably got 15 people who were like, fuck you, I'm unsubscribing. And I was like, really? Because you disagree with one thing I say? That's the bar? Like, the bar for you subscribing to my Substack or watching me on YouTube or whatever, consuming anything, is that you have to agree with me 100% of the time. Like, dude, you're fishing in the wrong waters. That's never gonna be me. But it is remarkable to me that that's a bar that a lot of people set. Like, you only want to watch, or listen to people who only say predictable things you agree with? Like, how fucking boring is that?
We need to take on these fake provocateurs. It's like, no, I'm going to tell you a hard truth, okay? Nobody else is going to tell you this.
Oh, God.
I'm going to tell you this hard truth. Everything you want to hear. Here
Totally.
we go.
Hey, guess what? Trump is a fascist, Hitlerian dictator who's taking over everything. Give me your money.
Yeah,
it's just so depressing, and it works. That's what's most depressing. It works.
Yeah, I think I was able to cull through some of those. You wrote something I don't like, so I'm unsubscribing. I mean, I had those for a while. I think a lot of people, when I first started writing, expected me to be the Republican alternative, even though I was still barely a Republican at that point. I'm certainly not at this point because I was run out of the party. But you know, I think people have conditioned themselves, at least my readers, at this point, to know that I'm taking everybody on. Republicans, Democrats, my friends, not my friends.
Speak truth to power. Isn't that to hold the powerful accountable, afflict the powerful, and comfort the afflicted? Like,
I'm like CM Punk. I'm the voice of the voiceless.
Oh my God, it's so good. When are we doing our wrestling podcast? Because I will say, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's so much wrestling stuff in Trump.
Oh.
Like, did you see yesterday at Capital One Arena? He comes in, they intro him, and he comes in through the crowd. I mean, that's like total pro wrestling move, right? Like, and the little desk he had on stage where he's signing executive orders, it reminded me of all the like wrestling contracts that they sign. Like, they put the desk in the middle of the ring. I mean, there's so much there. I think he has learned so many lessons.
He's a WWE Hall of Famer.
He is.
I think Fetterman's the only one that understands this.
Yeah. It's really, there are lessons there, man. Like, I watched Mr. McMahon. Have you guys watched that on Netflix? The doc. I mean, it is fascinating about Vince. That he even sat for the interview is stunning to me. I mean, he sat for this long interview, which usually is not going to end well if you're Vince McMahon.
It was pre-Janelle Grant, though.
It was.
By the way, Janelle Grant's lawyer is Ann Callis, who took on my old boss, Rodney Davis, for Congress in 2016.
Oh my gosh, small world.
So it's
in that doc, McMahon talks about so many things, like creating the enemy and playing the kind of like, and how like the lovable, the heel who you hate, but you also kind of root for. Like, that's him. That's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He's the like modern day Roman Reigns heel who you're like divided on. You know, you're not supposed to like him.
Put your ones up.
Put your ones up, baby. I went to see an AEW show in Oakland last year. If you've never seen, for people who are listening to this, I don't care if you hate pro wrestling. If you've never seen a pro wrestling show in person, you need to go. It's like an American cultural experience.
The cons are from Champaign, Illinois.
Oh,
interesting.
I know you got to get
Patrick,
out of here.
I have one last question. Is Jim Oberweis still a thing in Illinois politics? Because I
lives in Florida
his
now.
Milkshakes.
He lives in Florida now. He divested from the milk business years ago.
So he's not in the dairy anymore. Yeah, but it still has his
sons. His sons run the dairy.
Okay.
I think he may still have his name on the investment side, but
that guy ran for office a lot. He spent a lot of money losing.
He served in the state senate for a long time, and then eventually stepped away. Was it after the remap? Was it 20 or 22? He left.
Delicious milkshakes.
Really?
Not a good politician. Delicious milkshakes. Not cheap, but delicious.
If you ever get a chance, go find the illegal immigrant ad with him in a helicopter over Soldier Field when he ran for Senate in 2004.
I remember that.
It was wild, and a great precursor of the modern GOP. All right, we are way over time. Chris Cillizza, go find his stuff. chriscillizza.substack.com. Where else do we find your stuff?
Do it. YouTube.com/Chris Cillizza, same spelling. And by the way, support independent journalism. It doesn't have to be me or Patrick or Tom, although ideally it is, but support independent journalism.
Yeah.
If you think this stuff is important, holding people to account, you need to support the people doing it. It is not a profession you can do for $0 like any other profession. You pay a guy to come fix your plumbing, pay a guy to monitor your politics.
Amen.
Chris Cillizza, thanks so much, my man.
All right, y'all. Take care, man.
Brother.
It's time for the second half.
You know it's a good day when your political conversation turns into a pro wrestling conversation.
That was great.
And a West Wing conversation. Good stuff from Chris Cillizza, our guy. Appreciate Chris taking some time. All right, Q&A. Send us questions, groundgamepodcast at gmail.com, or drop us a line on the Twitter machine at ground_game_pod. We'll throw some questions in.
You can also reply in the YouTube comments.
And
too.
in the YouTube comments, though I don't read those.
I do.
Yeah, Tom does. Tom loves it. I've been banned from talking to people.
Yeah, you're not allowed to.
All right, here's the question we've got. Can't Mr. America First buy an American suit? There was a story on Politico breaking down men's fashion from Mr. at Dye Workwear, Derek
Oh,
Guy.
yeah, sure.
After the inauguration, Trump, as usual, wearing an Italian suit, Brioni, while J.D. Vance had his handmade from a guy in Cincinnati. And Elon Musk wearing Tom Ford. So you can see who's trying to wear American stuff, who's not. It goes back to Trump's just so full of shit, right?
Yeah, get
America first when he could, Biden wore Ralph Lauren, Obama wore heart marks, if I remember right, for his inauguration. And here's Trump, Mr. America First, wearing his Italian suit and his Chinese-made Trump tie.
Not the place to look for consistency.
Right.
If you want consistency, sign up to the ground game. If you think America First means Chinese Italian, then I guess technically that is consistent, because the great scheme to steal the election in 2020 was directed by Chinese thermostats and Italian defense satellites. So perhaps it's a clever FU
with the Jewish space lasers
and Jewish space lasers. I'm still waiting on my bagel to cook with that damn thing. All right, MTG made all these promises with that freaking Jewish space laser, and I got nothing.
It's not like he doesn't have options to buy American either, right? Like you don't think Brooks Brothers not as much anymore, but you don't think like he can't get some American tailor, or Leonard Longsdale wouldn't come to Trump Tower and make him a suit?
Dude, Pence wore Joseph A. Banks.
And that's because Pence is cheap.
Yes.
It's because Pence is cheap, okay?
Yeah.
Do better than Joseph A. Bank.
Yeah.
Unless Joseph A. Bank wants to sponsor us, then you can't do better. But I don't even know who this is. But just typical stuff from Trump. And best dressed of the entire weekend. She's already been brought up in.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Fetterman. But yeah, go ahead.
Fetterman.
Dude, that guy gets it. He really does.
No, he doesn't get it.
He totally
don't wear a hoodie and shorts to the inauguration, you clown. I get that we live in a casual world, and I'm a guy that likes suits who's not normal. A member of the United States Senate should at least have a jacket on. Like put a jacket on, put a button down on, wear jeans. I don't give a shit. But like look somewhat don't look like a janitor when you're serving the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. And big guys can wear suits too. Okay. So don't give me any of that. It's not comfortable. Well, get one that's comfortable. Stop looking like you're homeless.
Get a Cincinnati tailor.
I'm sure. Is he closer to Philly or Pittsburgh? I don't know.
Oh, he's a Pittsburgh guy. Braddock. Well, I don't know. He's really a York, Pennsylvania guy, which is down there, not too far away from Baltimore. 45 minutes.
I'm sure there's a Pittsburgh tailor somewhere. There's certainly plenty in DC.
Mm-hmm.
Go get a suit, dude. Go get a suit that fits you. This is
Dude, Tim Burchett was wearing his Carhartt jacket. All right. Like,
House member. I look at House members differently, right? And
oh,
maybe
you're one
this
of them.
maybe this goes back to the Illinois legislature, and I'm a Senate guy in Illinois. So in Illinois, you're required to wear a suit and tie when you're on the Senate floor. And in the House, it's certainly a lot more relaxed, like jacket not necessary, tie not necessary. So I always default to suit and tie. Maybe it's just
For folks who don't know this, there really is a stratification between the House and the Senate wherever you go.
Totally.
And you were not, and in Congress, you are not allowed to refer to, or it is uncouth. And Lord knows this will be the least uncouth thing to happen in Congress in the last 10 years. But it is uncouth to refer to the Senate as the upper chamber, because that pisses off the members of the lower chamber.
The House of Lords. Not the House of Commons.
All this populace, man. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, Lord. All right, that's all we got. Like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. Go to your favorite podcast app, whether it's the Apple people with Tim Apple, who was at the inauguration,
right,
or Spotify or Amazon Music. I'm an Amazon Music guy. Thanks, Jeff Bezos. And go subscribe, get us into your feed, listen, share, spread the word, help us out. We're trying to build this thing the right way. Yeah. Instead of going to find some corporate overlords to help us, boost our engagement, we're trying to do it the right way. We're trying to do it with real talk, no bullshit, and we hope you're enjoying that. So, Tom, thanks, appreciate it. We'll talk to you again, everyone, next time here on The Ground Game.